Hello friends, welcome to Learn One. So let's start with AngularJS. So in this session what we will see is what is AngularJS. Just go to what is AngularJS. So let me tell you that AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. It's an library which is written in JavaScript. How to use it? For that you have to include that JavaScript file into your HTML page. After including that file, you have to write some code in your HTML file. Then you run your application and you can see the output. So in this way you can run your AngularJS application. What are the features of AngularJS application? It is widely used to create spa kind application, to make interactive rich websites and many more things. So this is very beneficial to do these type of stuff. So this is what AngularJS is. Now we are looking forward for what are the prerequisites for AngularJS. So what we do need to know about before proceeding to AngularJS. So these are the few things which many people know, but if someone do not know what it is, then it is better to have a complete or at least brief knowledge about these things. What are these? These are HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So what is HTML? It is known to all of us. This is a hypertext markup language. It is used to create a website. We can create many static website and many things in your HTML. Second part is CSS. What is CSS? CSS is a cascading style sheet. It is used to make your website more interactive and to give some look and feel touch. So this is what CSS. And another thing is JavaScript, which is very important in this case because the whole our AngularJS program is written in JavaScript. So you have to know what the JavaScript is before proceeding to AngularJS. So JavaScript is a programming technique for web technologies through which you can do lots of things like event driven thing, and some event happen, you have to write something, and this type of thing you can manage in your JavaScript file. So in this way these three things are very important to learn AngularJS. Let me summarize you. What are these things? This is JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Now we will look the overall structure of AngularJS. Here you can see that how it is overall managed. Okay. So what happened exactly? First, AngularJS loads when your page loads in your browser. So it looks for the ng app directive of AngularJS. Once it finds that directive, it starts compiling the whole program, the whole section of that attribute or tag. Then it executes the whole program. So for that we need many things like ng init to initialize some variable, ng app to declare our application, what the module is you are going to use, and ng model to bind your variable into your HTML, and ng bind you can say, or it can be used as curly braces to show your any variable's value in your view, in your HTML. So in this way when you run a program of AngularJS, it executes in this way. First it finds ng app, then it finds ng model, then ng bind, and then it runs. So in this way we can see that the overall structure, and it works accordingly. Here you can see, here this is an example. So in this way it is done, that a basic knowledge of AngularJS. So friends, now we are on desktop. So first I will open Notepad++. Here it is Notepad++ in my desktop. It's a shortcut. Let's open it. So here you can see a blank document. Here I will write my AngularJS program. So let's start it. As I had said you that an AngularJS program is written inside an HTML. So let's write an HTML program and use our AngularJS. So first we need to download AngularJS framework. for our AngularJS program. So for that you have to go to Google Chrome or any of your browser. Simply open it and write download AngularJS framework CDN. So here you can see there are so many websites which provides you AngularJS CDNs. So let's go with this one. So here Google provides an AngularJS CDN. That is an online link to AngularJS framework. So we need to copy this link and include it in your Notepad++. So you have to include that and CDN link within this script tag. Here I will paste that link. Let's write type is equal to, now starting our body tag, let's say in history tag I'm going to write this is my first Angular program. Let's insert a div. As I told you that our AngularJS program starts from ng app, so you have to write ng app within any of the element of HTML. It could be within div, it could be within body tag, or within your HTML. So I'm going to write it inside the div. So it will be like ng app is equal to, initially I'm going to write it blank because it's a basic example, so you do not need to write any name. Here basically we provide the name, our application name, the module name inside this ng app. So right now for an example purpose I'm leaving this blank and just writing something, welcome Mr. Miss XYZ. Now save it, AngularJS examples, file 1, and let's make the extension as HTML, then save it. Now you can run your AngularJS program from Notepad++ itself and from Google Chrome, the browsers. So let's run it from here, launch in Chrome. So this is my first Angular program, welcome Mr. and Miss XYZ. So now let's include another directive of AngularJS, that is ng-init is equal to, say, a variable name like guest user is equal to learn1. So now I will use this guest user in place of XYZ, and I can do it using curly braces. So inside the curly braces I will write that variable name guest user. So what it will do, it will simply take the value of guest user, that is learn1, while initializing this app. Okay, so let's run it, let's save it, go to run, launch in Chrome. So here you can see that it came welcome Mr. or Miss learn1, or we can provide many styles. Let's make it bold. See, so this part is coming from ng-init. It is the responsibility of AngularJS to tackle with these variables. So we can also print this value, the guest user, within by using ng-bind. Okay, so how we'll do that? Simply write a span tag and let's put ng-bind is equal to your Angular variable name guest user. Now see, I have removed the curly braces and I wrote ng-bind instead of curly braces. So it will have the same impact as the curly braces was giving us. Let's save it and run it. The same effect, but by using ngbind. So friends, you must be wondering, then what is the function of ngapp? If it is doing nothing, it's a blank. So as I have told you that it's a starting point of the program. AngularJS finds this directive and start executing of the rest of the program. So if you'll remove this ngapp, then what will happen? Let's see. See, that variable is not recognized, as the browser knows that here no AngularJS program is going to execute, as ngapp is missing. So whatever, if you write within curly braces, then also it will not work. Simply it will display this portion, guest user. Save it and run. See, but when I include that ngapp is equal to blank, then it recognizes that yeah, it's an AngularJS program and I have to execute some code. So save it and run it. Here it comes. So friends, this is the basic example of AngularJS. So here I would like to tell you one another thing, that instead of importing the framework by online, you can do it offline also. For that, you need to download your angular.mean.js file in Chrome. So just go and write download AngularJS. Click on this link. Here you can see download AngularJS. Click on this. Here it comes, that branch build CDN. You can also download that CDN from here also. And, so just click on download button. It is asking me to keep or discard, so allow it to keep. Just download it, open it, show in folder. You can copy this file and paste it in your folder where are you working on, or you could simply give this path as your source src. So I'm going to copy it and I will paste it in my folder for convenience. So let's copy it and paste it in my folder. So now I just need to input this name inside my files. So you do not need to write all these things. You just write the file name, that is angular.mean.js. Now save it. Now launch in Chrome. See, it is working. So this is all about the very first program of AngularJS. Hope you understood the basic concept. So in the same manner, in our following upcoming session, we will see lots of program. So thanks. So first of all, we will see what is scope. A scope is an object which has some properties and method. Properties and method can be described in your JavaScript file. So in this way you can declare your scope. How to declare variables in AngularJS? For that you need to write scope. So by using a scope you can declare your variable, your objects, and all over the functions, everything. So this is all about scope. And what does it do? It's a linking connectivity. It's you could say that it's something which connects your view to JavaScript. So when we do some changes in scope, it is easily reflected in your model as well as in your template. So this is what scope is. So friends, in your JavaScript file, you can declare your variables, functions. Like this, here you can see that how I am defining the variables and the functions, and what are the variables which you can define using scope. So there are so many variables you can define, like string, object, and array. So these type of variables are defined by using scope. Okay, so this is all about scope. So just remember one thing, when you are using your scope in your HTML file, then you do not need to write $scope. Okay, so basically what do we write? We write only the variable part. Suppose I have written scope dot myvar is equal to xyz. So if I want to access that variable in my view, then what I will write? I will write within my curly braces that myvar. So this is the process of accessing scope. In detail we will see in upcoming session. I will give you a demonstration, an example where you can easily find out what does it do and what it is used for. So let's move to data binding. What is data binding in AngularJS? So data binding enables you to access your variable throughout your HTML file and your script file, that is your JS file. So whenever you do changes in any of them, you can easily get the updated value in your HTML as well as in your model, which is written in JavaScript file. So data binding is automatic synchronization process of data between your view and your model. So whenever we do changes in view, it will be reflected in your model, and wherever some changes will be there in your model, it will be reflected in your view. So in this way we achieve two-way data binding. So AngularJS provide two-way data binding. So how do we achieve this? So for this we need to simply access the variable, and we need to do some changes in your view or in your model, then the updated value will be reflected in both the end. So this is the reason why do we call it as data binding and two-way data binding. Okay, so suppose in my view I have done some changes in some variable like xyz. Okay, I have changed that value through my input DOM. I have changed that. Suppose in my text box there I have written xyz mnp. Okay, initially that value was xyz. So right now I have updated that to xyz mnp. So it will be updated as well as in your model. So whenever you will access that xyz variable in your model, it will give you the updated value, that is xyz mnp. So more about this we will see in upcoming example, which I will going to elaborate after this session. So this is all about the two-way data binding in AngularJS. So let's move to expressions. What is AngularJS expression? AngularJS expression is nothing but some kind of rule which you use to get your values in your views. Okay, so suppose I want to access some variable in my HTML file, then for that I will use Angular expressions. So how to achieve Angular expression? There are basically two ways. First is by using curly braces. Second is by using your ngbind directive, which is a inbuilt directive of AngularJS. So how to use the first scenario? The first scenario is the curly braces. So for curly braces you need to do only write your curly braces, and within that curly braces you write your variable name. Suppose in my HTML file I have a div tag, and under div tag I want to display some variable which I have initialized in my JavaScript file. So what I will write, say suppose in my JavaScript file I have written scope.xyz is equal to Delhi. So in my view I want to show that Delhi value to the user. So for that what I will write? For that I will write under curly braces only xyz, the value which contains the value Delhi. So AngularJS expression contains literals, operators and variables. So in expression you can use literal, variables and operators. Using this AngularJS computes the whatever the expression written inside the curly braces and gives the final output to us. So in that curly braces we can write integer, float, string or object. So that can be easily be displayed to user. So in this way we can use the expressions. And what is the another approach? The another approach is ngbind. So through ngbind we do not need to write the curly braces, just we need to use ngbind. Suppose in my span tag I have written span ngbind is equal to that variable name without scope. Remember that we need to write only the part without scope. So whenever we need to display that variable, we will write that inside that ngbind and it will be displayed to our user. So friend, in this manner we can see that what is the scope, what is two-way data binding, and what is expression. So here I am going to describe a bit more about this through an example which you will see later on. So let's go for an example. First of all, let's move to this folder, AngularJS example. Here I have written a folder, session 2, example 2. Right now it's blank because we have not written any code inside this file. So we will open this file in Notepad++, and here is a predefined structure which you can see. For the sake of time, we have written it already. That will not take much time writing these things. So here what you can see that the HTML document, head, title and a script, the file which we need to import in our HTML in order to use AngularJS. And here we will write the piece of code, our model code, and inside the body we will write the view code. So this session would be basically regarding scope, Angular expression and data binding. So first of all, let's start with ngapp. Ngapp is equal to, say, test. ngController equal to myapp. Now it's done. Let's move to script part and define our module like this, where demo is equal to angular dot module, and inside this braces you will write inside the parenthesis your module name, that is test. This name I will write here, test, and a blank array that will receive any services which we'll use in future, that we will see in later chapters. So first of all, you should know that this is my syntax for declaring any module for your AngularJS, where your variable name is equal to angular.module and your module name and the blank array, okay, inside the parenthesis. And make sure that this name must be equal to this name, the name which you used in ngapp. So again you can see here that here is ngController, whose name is myapp. So I'm going to define ngController for this module like this, demo dot controller, inside this controller name, that is myapp, comma function. Here I will pass scope. Here I will open close curly braces. So this is my structure for Angular controller. So this is my controller name and this is the function of controller. And here it takes some parameter which is a scope. If you will not define this parameter, it will not understand what is the scope and where it came from. Okay, so for that reason it's a syntax, we need to write this in this way. So let's initialize some variable. So in Angular we need to write scope whenever we need to declare any variable. It's not like where xx, no. So how to write it? It should be like $scope dot your variable name, suppose name is equal to Kolkata. Okay, so here what I have done, I have initialized this variable with Kolkata. So now I will use this scope. So this is my scope, what I have discussed in my tutorial of scope and data binding. So this is the scope variable, that's name is name. So inside my view I will use this variable to display the Kolkata. So how to do that? Just take any tag like p tag and write hello welcome to name. So this is my scope. We do not need to write it like this. This is wrong. So we will write only the name. So when I will running this application, it will give me output like hello welcome to name. Let's make it bold. Now run this example, launch in Chrome. So here you can see that hello, welcome to Kolkata. So this is my scope, this is my controller, and this is my module. This is Angular module. This is my controller, and this is my Angular view. So this part is your module, and this is your controller, and this is your view. In short, the whole thing is view, but let's assume this is my view. So this is your scope. You can declare as much scope as you want, as you require. Here I can write another scope, say scope dot temperature is equal to 45 degree. So I want to display this also in my view. So what I will do, I will simply write this and write today's temperature is. So this is my Angular expression which is written inside the curly braces. It could be written like this. Any tag, within that tag you write ngbind is equal to your variable name, that is temperature. So let's do in this way using ngbind, and now run this application. So here you can see that hello, welcome to Kolkata. Today's temperature is 45 degree. So here we are using ngbind instead of curly braces. This could be done by using curly braces, but for the sake of giving you an example regarding ngbind, we have used this ngbind inside our paragraph. This was an example where you can see how scope is used, how expressions are declared, how expressions are written, and how ngbind done. So let's see how it is achieving two-way binding. As I have told you that AngularJS provides the functionality of two-way data binding. So how to do that in your program? Let's have an input tag. Type is equal to text. Let's define a module. Ng module is equal to city. And now in order to use this variable, you should initialize this inside your controller, like scope dot city is equal to London. Now write welcome to city. Let's run this program. So here you can see that it is binded in my input tag, and it is showing that London inside that input tag, and in next line you can see that welcome to London is displayed. So if you will do any changes in this input tag, this will be reflected in your city scope, that is London. So let's write London and Mumbai. So here you see it is automatically updated. So this way AngularJS provides two-way data binding. So if you will see, the value of the scope, that is city, is not London. Now it became London and Mumbai because it's a two-way data binding. Whatever changes you will do in here, it will be reflected in your model. So you must have heard of this term Angular Directives, and what is this Angular Directives? So let me tell you a brief definition of Angular Directives. It's nothing but something which enables you to create your HTML code in your own way. In short, you can use directives in order to extend your HTML attributes. So suppose in our HTML file there are lines of code, and I want to use some code repeatedly several times. So what I will do, I will write those codes again and again. So in Angular Directives, it provides you a functionality to write that particular code in separate location, so that whenever you used to get that function, you simply use that directive or that particular code. So it will minimize your HTML code. So in AngularJS, when you want to use directives, you have to write some code in your HTML file, after only you can use directive. So there are basically two kind of directives we can use. First is predefined, which is provided by AngularJS itself, and another one is custom directive. So predefined directives are directives which are already made inside AngularJS framework. We just need to use that. And another one is custom directive, that is defined by us. Means we will create that directive, we will add that functionality into some directive and use that in our file. So first of all, we will see what is predefined directive. So in predefined directive, there are lines of directive, many directives. We just need to use that particular directive. Like I am giving you an example of a predefined directive, say ngIf, ngShow, ngHide. So how to use this? In our HTML file, within a tag, say div tag, I am using ngShow is equal to, within quote, some variable name. So when I will execute some code, it will look that directory name, that is ng-show is equal to that variable name, and if that variable contains true value, it will show that particular block of that div. And suppose I have written ngShow is equal to some variable and that variable's value is false, then it will not show that value. So predefined directives are useful to extend your HTML attributes. So here is a list of predefined attributes. You can see ngIf, ngShow, ngHide, ngClick. So it is very useful, and these are the predefined directives. There are so many, but these are used widely in our code. We in day-to-day life, many programmers, many developers, they use these code at least because these are very useful. So this is all about predefined directives. And now I will tell you what is custom directive. Why to use custom directive? Suppose in some scenario I want to add some functionality, my own functionality. Suppose I click something and I want, after clicking this, the color of the text should be changed automatically. Or you could say anything functionality you want, that is your own requirement. So how to achieve that? For that reason, AngularJS provides you a functionality called custom directive. So by using custom directive, you can create your own directive. And the very first thing you should know about creating Angular directive is you have to use the first letter of ng is smaller, and then hyphen, then again your word will contain smaller letter. Means ng hyphen my. Suppose ng hyphen my is a directive name. So n will be smaller and my will be smaller. And inside your directive function, when you will define your directive name, then there will be your ng will be smaller and m will be capital and hyphen will not be there. So it's like ng my and m is capital. So it should be maintained in your program. Okay. So suppose my directive contains three words like ng hyphen show hyphen extra. So in this case, all the words will be in lowercase, and in directive, when I am going to use it, ng hyphen I will remove, show hyphen I will remove, and extra. So I will combine all this and write that directive names as ng show extra, in which n should be small and show s should be capital and extras e should be capital. So this is the, you can see, this is the structure of how to write ng in your directive while you defining and while you are using that directive in HTML file. So in this way, at the time of defining directive, you have to keep it in your mind that how to write that directive name both in view as well as in your definition part in your JavaScript file. So there are so many types of custom directive you can create. Basically, we are using custom directive to access four types. We can access it by using four types. There are four types. So what are those? First is we can use directive as a element itself, means as a HTML element. You must have learned that HTML has a number of elements like div tag, p tag, show, span tag. Similarly, you can create your own tag. That is your that would be your directive tag. Okay, so you could give any name to that directive to to that element. So suppose my first type is element type. So element type, what you will do, you will create a tag, means angle bracket. Within that you will write your directive name and you close your that tag. So in this manner you can create directive as a element in your HTML. Here you can see I have shown you how to write as a element directive. If you want to use as element, you have to follow this code. Okay, so after completing means after using directive as an element, we can create it, we can call it by as a attribute. Like suppose in my div tag I have an attribute called style. Style is equal to something something, so that style is called attribute of div tag. So in place of style I can put my own directive name, like div space my directive name, that is ng hyphen anything, and close that div tag. So in this manner I can use the directive as a attribute itself. Okay, so it is also useful. And next we will use it like class. So in any tag you must have used class. So in my div tag I have written something like div space then class. Class is equal to my directive name, which I am making, the custom directive name. Okay, so there I will use it as a class. So in this way I can use it as an element, as an attribute, and as a class. And one thing is left, that is as a comment. So as a comment, how to use it? So for that you simply write comment. How to write comment in HTML file? Simply within angle bracket give exclamation mark and then dash dash and then your comment part. So in that part you have to write the directive colon then your directive name. So in this manner you can use directive as a comment. So friends, let's start an example of Angular directives. So here you can see that structure of my HTML file, which is including this script for adding AngularJS file. So here I am going to write my code within this tag, script tag, and here I am going to write my HTML code, or you could say view code. So let's first start with writing script, creating a module, then controller, then directive. So where desk is equal to angular dot module, my module name, that is L1 comma blank array I am passing, as it is a syntax of creating module. And here I am going to create a controller. I can create or I cannot create, it's up to me, but for better understanding purpose I am going to create it. Let's say desk dot controller. Here my controller name, say cntrl comma function, which takes scope as a parameter, and here open close curly braces. So here I am going to write my controller code, and here I have defined my module, that is L1. At the same place let's create directive. So leave it for now, I will show you later, because for that when I will be saying you about the custom directive, then I will create it. Okay, so for now only just concentrate on what is inbuilt directive which AngularJS provides us. Okay, so as I told you, there are so many, like ngif comma nginit comma ngshow and so on. Okay, so let's use those directives. So first make a div tag. Let's define my ngapp is equal to L1, ng controller is equal to your controller name, that is cntrl. Okay, and here I will write the code. Okay, so let's initialize some variable here, say $scope dot list is equal to, say, let's create an array xyz comma abc span close, and let's use this x. So what it will do, it will bind all the data which is present in the array, my list array. Okay, so I have used this variable here, so it will repeat all the variables and show everything within this span tag. Okay, so it will create how many span tag? 1, 2, 3. So let's save it and let's run it. Launch in Chrome. See, you can see XYZ ABC PQR. So it comes by using ngRepeat. So this is the main function of ngRepeat. It repeats the DOM. It creates DOM depending on your list, depending on your scope variable. So it contains 3 elements. So it is creating 3 times span. Okay, if you see in DOM, let's inspect. You will find that there are 3 span tags. See, span, span, span. Okay, so this is about ngRepeat. So let's inside that div. Okay, hello, check me out. And now ng-show is equal to false. So let's run it again. See, it is not displaying. And now if I set it to true, you can see this. It's working. So this is the functionality of ng-show. By setting it true false, we can display its inner content. Okay, and it can also be set from controller like this way. Suppose my val. Okay, and set it inside your controller like this. Scope.myval is equal to true. Okay, and now run it. See, it is coming. Make it false. And now again run it. See, it's gone. So we can use it as a variable also. So this is my ng-show, and let's use ng-if. Okay, you are coming. ng-if is equal to. So here it will evaluate the expression which you are going to write, or simply if it will find true, it will display the you are coming. Or if you will write any expression inside this ng-if, any condition, then it will evaluate that condition, and if it comes to true, it will display the inner content, and it will, if it will come to false, it will not display. Okay, so let's write 2 is greater than 1. Okay, so this is my condition. I can set it inside the ng-if. Okay, that just save it and run it. See, you are coming. It's displaying. Okay, now make it 2 is greater than 3. So is it true? No, it is false. So it will not display. Let's run it. See, so in this manner it is working, ng-if. Similarly, as ng-show, there is a predefined directive called ng-hide that works in the same way. If I'll write it to hide, then what it will do, it will hide if it value of my val is true. So right now it is false, so it will display you hello, check me out. Just run it. It's coming. Okay, now set it to true. Save it, run it. See, it's gone. So we have seen ng-show, ng-hide, ng-if. So there are a lot of predefined directives. Then now let's move to custom directives. Okay, so how to use that? Let's create a div. So as I told you that custom directives are of 4 types, means I can use the directive in 4 different ways. What are those ways? First is as an element, as an attribute, as a class, and as a comment. So now we are going to see this aspect. Okay, as an element, I'm going to use it as an element. Okay, so for that, let's make an element, my custom div. Okay, now close it. So this is my directive name. Could be split into 2 words, 3 words, as many you want as per requirement. Okay, so I made it of 3 words, my custom div. So here what I will do, I will create this directive as a custom directive, and for that I have to use the directive function which AngularJS provides for creating custom directives. Okay, and where I will write that code, I will write that code inside the script file here inside. So let's create it. My variable name is desk dot directive open close parenthesis. My directive name, that is my custom C capital, custom divs D capital, custom div. Okay, my directive name, comma function. So here is the structure of div. So inside this I will write what it returns. It returns the HTML DOM which you will create. Okay, so it has some property like restrict, and another is replace, another is template. So these are property. There are so many properties. These are the basic properties. Okay, so in order to use the whole types as an element, as an attribute, as a class, you need to know at least these properties. Okay, so what is the function of restrict? Why I have written restrict here? So I have written restrict here. Suppose I am using this directive, which is my custom directive, that is my custom div. I want to use it as a element. Okay, so elements, for element we use the notation which is E. Okay, E is for element. Attributes, for attribute we use A, for class we use C, and for comment we use M. So these letters are used as a value for restrict. Suppose I want to use this directive as an element, so what I will write here, restrict, and here I will write E. So it will use this directive only and only when it is defined as an element. If I will define it as a attribute, it will not use. Okay, say I made a div and I'm going to use this as an attribute, my custom div. So when I will run this piece of code will work for only this directive. Why? Because it is restricted to element only. Okay, so let's move to next section. What is that? Replace. So in replace, what do? We set true and false. It takes boolean value, so we'll write true. Okay, so if we'll write true, so what it does, so it will simply replace your this tag. It will make it will remove this tag where the directive is being used, and it will insert the new template which you are going to provide here. Okay, let's do this also. H2 hello moto. So this is the template, means it is going to return this part. This directive is going to return this part when you are using directive like this or like class or comment. Okay, so what it will do, if you will make replace is equal to true and you will use it as a element or as an attribute, so it will do that it will remove this part, this whole part, and it will simply replace this with this part. Okay, I will show you when I'm going to run it. I will be showing you how it is working this. Okay, so for now let's make it true. What I have done, I have restricted to E, means only this directive is going to work, not this. Why? Because I have not mentioned here that is restrict to as an attribute also. Okay, so let's remove this for now and let's concentrate on using directive as a, for your better understanding, let's write a message. Here comes custom directive. Okay, let's save it. Let's run it again. Here you can see hello moto, it is coming. So it is coming by direct that we made Okay, so here what we have done, we have used directive and we call it using as an element. So as an element we have used it inside our HTML file. So you can see as an element you have used and you have called this hello motor. Okay, so let me tell you what it does when you write replace is equal to true. Okay, go to inspect and see the tag is omitted and it is showing only the template part, that is hello motor. So if I will write it false and save it and run it, what it will do, it will not replace that. See, it is coming. Okay, so hope you got the difference between replace true and false, what it does mean to. Now use it as an attribute. So for that, simply convert it to div tag div. So now I am using it as an attribute type. Let's put that also. Make fresh div as an attribute. This was as an element and this is as an attribute. So in order to use it as an attribute, you have to write a, so it will understand that it is calling me as an attribute. So now save it and run it. So check, as an element is not coming and as an attribute it is coming. Okay, so let's make it. So what if I want to use both these scenario? So for that, in restrict I will write both A and E together like this and save it, run it. See, as an element is also coming and as an attribute is also coming. Okay, so we have used directive as an element and as an attribute. Now let's use it as a class. Here you have to write it within double quotes because you are using it as a class. Okay, my directive name. Okay, my custom div. We can use it only C or we can simply add it inside this within with this E and A. So let's make it as a single C. Then we will add this letter. So C as a class it is coming. As a class hello motor is coming. Okay, now using as a and you can also use that as an element and attribute also. So AEC if I write, it will display 3 times. See, as an element, as an attribute and as a class. So let's use it as a comment. So give comment, write directive colon your directive name custom div, close, save it and write M for this. All fine, save, let's launch it. So what happened? It's not coming as a comment. Why? Because when you are using directive as a comment, you have to replace it. Means set it to true. Else what it will do? It will count it as a comment and it will not display at all. So I am making it true. Let's check now. Okay, say it is coming. Hello motor. So here you have seen that I have used a directive as an element, as an attribute, as a class, as a comment. So what if I want to use all at a time? Okay, so simply write EAMC and now save your code and run it and see. Here it came all together as an element, as an attribute, as a class and as a comment. So this is what your custom directive is mean for and how to use it. This is the simple way I have shown you. So we have covered this. So this is your custom directive example. Okay, hope you got it clear. And more you do example, more you do different things, more you will learn. Thank you. So friends, we have seen that what is custom directive, how to use that as an attribute, as a class and as a comment. In our next video we will see what is controller and how to use that controller.